Taoiseach Leo Varadkar will not take builders' claims that apartments are financially unviable as truth. What do you think? Is Leo Varadkar playing the fool, or does he have another agenda? If you take the headline at face value, Leo Varadkar doesn't believe in facts. Is that the type of leader we need right now? How is the housing crisis going to be solved if the Taoiseach himself doesn't believe the people who have the most amount of data and are at the front line of this? Is Leo Varadkar's statement simply political tactics aimed to shift the blame and use the media to make villains out of builders and property developers and labeling them as profit-hungry builders and distracting from the real issue of poor policy? Or is there something more to it? The Irish Examiner's headline on the statement is Varadkar won't take builders' claims that apartments are financially unviable as truth. Leo has also stated within the report, I often said that there are, I think, about 70,000 planning permissions out there for new homes, mostly apartments, that are not being activated or have not been built, and I want to see them under construction. Leo Varadkar must think that this statement in itself is proof that apartments are not feasible in many locations. If they have planning, why are they not being built? Does Leo really think that builders have all just come together and agreed not to build apartments? These are profit-driven companies. If they were feasible, they would be built because there is lots of demand. If 70,000 units aren't being developed that have planning, this is evidence enough. The SES also come out with a building cost report every single year, and in the last 3 or 4 years that report has also highlighted that apartments, particularly within Dublin City, are just not feasible because the average cost of developing a 2-bed apartment within the city costs over 620,000. Mr Varadkar goes on to state that these claims ministers need to examine, and if there is a case, the government will step in further. So is that the real agenda? Building a case to allow the government to step in even further into the market? First off, in the first statement, you'd have to ask yourself, how have we got this far? How have we got to it that claims from the industry that apartment complexes aren't feasible is still not being examined? It wouldn't take that long to examine this claim. It would only take a few development appraisals to work out the answer to this question. I myself could probably do it in a few weeks if someone gave me the list of all 70,000 units, but the government itself could probably do it in a day or two. It's not a hard question to answer, but perhaps it's the second element of this statement that needs more looking into, and that is if there is a case, the government will step in further. And this is where it gets interesting. The Independent led with its headline, Leo Varadkar promises a carrot and stick approach to motivate new building work. There are no real details in regards to what that carrot and stick might be, but the article does state that options will need to be reviewed and maybe tax breaks or grants to developers and builders might be on the table. So is Leo Varadkar playing the fool, not believing the market and the evidence that's already out there, or is he trying to gather more evidence that apartments in many locations just are not feasible without tax breaks or grants? i.e., is he opening the door that builders and developers need tax breaks to build some of these apartments without committing political suicide? If this is how it plays out in the next year, this is weak leadership, because right now this is all about PR and political maneuvership in a time of a crisis, and that's not what anyone really wants at the moment. Interference from the government over the last 4 or 5 years is one of the reasons we have such a dysfunctional housing market. Adding more confusion to the market is not going to help. If they are going to issue tax breaks to kickstart development, get on with it. Set those rules and set them for the next 5 years and let builders just get on with it. This statement from the Taoiseach today is just a PR dance to manage votes, because that's what really matters, not actually solving the problem. If the government do want certain type of development to take place, offering tax incentives can deliver targeted housing quite quickly. It worked really well in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. It regenerated areas like Temple Bar and the Docklands. It wasn't needed in the mid-2000s because there was already overdevelopment and people were developing to get the benefit of these tax incentives rather than actually filling a demand. But perhaps there is a strong case right now for tax incentives if they want apartments to be built in certain locations, because they can target those tax incentives based on those type of locations and that type of development. Let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments below. Is this just PR to open up the discussion later on, or should we just get on with it if that's the decisions that they're going to be making? Perhaps we need stronger leadership to make these tough decisions to actually get the problem solved. Hopefully you have liked this video, and perhaps you can give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thanks for watching.